Hello everybody, welcome back to the Devil May Cry series boss ranking. We've cleared out the entire bottom half of this list, including the entirety of Devil May Cry 2. Who could have seen that coming? As a curiosity matter, here's the amount of bosses from each game remaining on the list, compared to the amount of bosses in the game total. Devil May Cry 1 has 3 out of 5 remaining, Devil May Cry 3 has 7 out of 12, Devil May Cry 4 has 7 out of 8, DMC Devil May Cry has 2 out of 6, and Devil May Cry 5 has 9 out of 12. And Devil May Cry 2 is fucking gone, lol. I feel this is interesting. Every game is holding up better than expected. We've got a lot of meat left to get through on this list. And, as we've seen, the quality is only ramping up and up. So, without any further ado, let's see how high it can go and continue this demon slaying journey. Number 30, the Mallet Island Trio. Well, look at this. It's Nightmare, except now he's a slightly more formed blob. Ah, they grow up so fast. Only took him about 20 years. This boss has seen the biggest shift around on the list, going from number 22 all the way to barely cracking the top 30. That's because, in keeping with my new principled approach to boss rankings, this fight isn't one that I particularly enjoy. The concept of essentially having a fight with V is cool, and each of the enemies is well designed, don't get me wrong, it's just very hard to kill them. I absolutely hated this fight in Dante Must Die because I could not for the life of me defeat them. They were practically impossible. However, I now know why that is, or at least one big contributory factor, and I feel kinda silly. See, as you make your way through the level, you tussle with Griffon, Shadow, and then both of them together leading up to the final fight at the end. After you win, you can explore more of the level and destroy these giant orb things. Once you do, that affects the final battle arena, taking away potential ways Nightmare, the main boss, can heal. Trust me, you'll want to get rid of as many of those as possible, or they'll get rid of your will to live. The added story significance behind the fight with these nightmares scores extra points for me. It's a very emotional moment after you've beaten them, and that's enough to land them in this spot in spite of any gameplay issues I may have, which largely comes down to a skill issue. Number 29, Doppelganger. We have another quote-unquote puzzle boss here, though this guy's a lot more puzzle and a lot less boss. Basically, Doppelganger is invincible until you break one of the 8 switches around the arena with him standing next to it, which will do minor damage and stun him momentarily. Break all 8 without him killing you or covering any of them back up, which you will do after a short time, and you'll get a pretty significant amount of time to beat on him in his now vulnerable state. I didn't realize the gimmick on my first time until I did it by accident, and I died as a result. That's on me. But the next couple of tries were quite fun. He's a simple fight, and it's pretty easy honestly, maybe a bit too much so, but I like it, as well as the story significance it gets with the symbolism involving Dante and his inner struggles. You also get the Doppelganger style as a reward from this fight, which Virgil then promptly stole for his own boss battle. Twice. What a bitch. But yeah, I enjoyed this simple fight. Doing it twice was no big deal in the boss rush. Number 28, Lady. Up until Devil May Cry 3, DMC's track record with main female characters was pretty subpar. Trish was a cool idea, but with questionable execution, and Lucia was... well,
Kill me!
However, like most things, Devil May Cry 3 saved this part of the franchise with Lady, the boss we're talking about in this part of the ranking. You have multiple run-ins with Lady throughout the game and cutscenes, learning about her character and her motivations. She's the daughter of Arkham, yeah, that dolphin summoning fuckhead, who killed her own mother, and she's here to take him out in revenge. After getting manipulated by him once again, she hardens her resolve to kill him, but Dante stops her because, well, she's gonna fucking die. So after an impassioned speech, she decides to kill us instead. What a rude bitch. The setup and thematic significance of this fight makes it one of the most memorable in the game right off the bat, and the mechanics aren't bad either. She's a very unique fight, pelting you with firearm shots and rockets while making sure to keep your distance, running away constantly to keep out of your sword range. Makes sense, she's a human with no demonic powers, minus the ability to power through getting stabbed in the leg mere hours ago and fight like nothing happened. That's just her big dick energy. However, the fleeing is a double-edged sword. My biggest complaint about the fight is that it's frustrating to chase her down in the final phase while she keeps taking pot shots at you. Again, it makes sense thematically, but it's still pretty tedious. Gameplay and story mixing isn't always an entertaining prospect. However, like I said, the story significance and great character, as well as the great character development for both Dante and Lady, elevate her fight up to this spot on the list, and I think it's well deserved. Number 27, Geryon. Next up, it's horsey time, and time is an appropriate word to put emphasis on. He starts off just like one of the worst Dark Souls 2 bosses, the Executioner's Chariot, by charging straight towards you on a narrow straight path, before teleporting back to the end of the arena and doing it again. Unlike Dark Souls 2, this isn't that bad. You just have to shoot him a lot, air hike or enemy step over the horse, and attack the carriage using the regular triangle rebellion air attack. That was a mouthful. After doing this enough, you two fall into an arena and the real fight begins. Geryon runs around and tries to run you over still, but now he summons these orbs around the place that if you touch them, will slow down time, leaving you as a sitting duck for his attacks. Occasionally he'll also fire projectiles at you, but these aren't too big of a worry. After a few charges, he'll stay still for a while, occasionally giving off an AoE attack, letting you get your fair damage in. If you hit him enough and stun him, Geryon will fall over, and you have your chance to really unleash the pain. Devil trigger up, swing away. The balance between giving you openings to attack and periods where you can't do anything but dodge is a hard balance to hit for many boss fights, but Geryon does it just fine. He's not stunned enough to be a pushover, and he's not charging around enough to be overly frustrating. Also, as a reward, you get the slick as hell Quicksilver style, and that's a massive plus in my book. I wish it would come back. Thanks to all these factors, I have full confidence at proclaiming Geryon a good boss, a sign of the escalating quality of the fights to come. Number 26, Bael and Dagon. We're bringing in this next entry with a, oh, hello ladies, how you doing? Holy fuck! I thought we were getting some sweet fan service, but nope, we got attacked by a Frenchman. Ugh, that's fine. It's totally awesome. At least the fight is pretty good, especially for the standards of the bosses so far. It starts off with two lit up girls, and you have to fight them. They really don't do too much, you can just wail on these glorified Christmas ornaments. After that, the frog will leap at you and attack, and you really want to dodge that move. After that, the tussle begins. The boss has pretty good attacks overall, a neat balance of ranged and melee, but he does suffer from a lack of speed. As either Dante or Nero, you can dance around every attack with regular dodges, air hikes and enemy steps, or the trickster style with Dante. This does mean he's one of the easier bosses in the game, but he's still quite enjoyable. Remember, difficulty doesn't automatically equate to quality, or equating ease to bad bosses. His attacks are all fair and balanced, and his fairly big health bar makes him a playground for stylish combos, which is always a good time. Experimenting is as fun as you make him. Real quick, the unique feature of bosses that you can fight as Nero in Devil May Cry 4, and a lot of them in Devil May Cry 5, are unique buster attacks that you can do to them while they're stunned. The attacks that Nero does on this frog are pretty brutal, reflective of his youthful raging character, and he gets extra style points for that alone. Bael and Dagon may be on the easier side, but they're also on the entertaining side, and I like them for that. Number 25, Barbas. Long time no see, DMC. Coming in the top half of the list with a strong entry, this boss is the closest the reboot gets to the wacky yet awesome presentation of the previous games. Barbas is a demonic news anchor, a parody character of Fox News and corrupt news outlets. Imagine that in the real world. He takes you on by turning into this giant hologram head and using all of the laser attacks. I'm a firing my laser! You smash a button with some demonic attacks, then wail on Bob's now vulnerable face, while still being wary of the AoEs he can put out. Rinse and repeat until you cleave down that health bar. After you've done your damage, he'll pull you into a news report, making you kill demons while in a unique view perspective. It's a cool set piece. After that's all done, you get back to business, button smashing and face bashing. You'll get into another news report after phase 2, which is much the same, but the dialogue is unique. I enjoy these, they are unlike anything else in the game. Phase 3, more buttons, more attacks, more of the good stuff. As a side note, this battle is quite long for this game, so you could find your health bar being chipped away by his constant attacks. Make sure to keep an eye on it. Bob is simplistic, like every other DMC boss I've mentioned so far, but unlike them, the simplicity doesn't take away from the fun of the fight. Barbas is the right amount of ham to be funny during the battle, and none of his mechanics are frustrating. The presentation is also super unique and well put together, full credit to the designers. He's just plain fun to fight, and I like him for that, regardless of any mechanical downsides. It's easily the second best fight in the game, and worthy of the spot it has in the top 25. Number 24, Griffon. Back to DMC 1 again. It's been a while, and we're back with a bird. Hey, wait a minute. He looks kinda familiar. Ah, that's where he came from. Ugh.
Block off, Featherface.
Well, at least this time he's a much better encounter than he was when he was stuck in that blob. In the replay I did of Devil May Cry 1, Griffon was a lot better than I expected. As expected of a big bird, he flies, and as seen from Devil May Cry 2, he shoots lightning. Dodging it isn't that hard. You can dodge most of the attacks by jumping or rolling, then you just gotta shoot to kill. Now you may be thinking, what? Shoot to kill? But Devil May Cry 1's guns aren't nearly as busted as they are in Devil May Cry 2. Well, fools, may I remind you of Devil Trigger? It lets you blitz this poor bird. You fight him in a courtyard, then on a pirate ship, and finally in an arena. The second fight is laughably easy, and I lost my footage, but the third fight is the natural evolution of Griffon as a battle, and it's a satisfying brawl, if not a very taxing one. But again, ease doesn't equal bad boss design. Get that out of your head, Dark Souls isn't everything. During the ending, Griffon is pinned down, and Dante asks him to stop fighting for his own sake. I have no idea why Dante's suddenly feeling merciful towards this demon bird, but hey, you do you, Chief. The ending cutscene with Mundus killing Griffon and Dante's resolve adds some more memorability to this otherwise average fight, which is enough for me to give it credit up this high on the list. Number 23, Agnus. We're jumping back into yet another Devil May Cry 4 boss. Seems we're knocking them out of the park pretty quickly now. I guess this is the average quality. This is our first conventionally humanoid boss fight from that game, and it's honestly not too bad. Well, at least it is when you can fight him. Your first encounter as Nero involves you beating up a glass window by throwing enemies at it via buster while dodging an electrified floor. That's not good boss design in any way. It's hardly even boss design. But at least at the end of the fight, you get one of the better cutscenes in the game. Just a shame that to reach it you have to endure a mediocre fight. When he turns into a flying bug man, it's a better fight, though not exactly a great one. He spends a lot of the fight running away, as you'd expect for someone so cowardly. He'll spend a lot of the time summoning minions and trying to do a super scary mega attack, but you can stun him out of it with ease by just hitting him. Imagine that. What a revolutionary concept. He spends a lot of the time in the air, and that's honestly one of the worst parts of the boss to me. As Nero, after playing Devil May Cry 5 first, I found his air combat pretty lacking, especially not being able to lunge forward with moves he'd get later. Like, I get that's not the fault of Devil May Cry 4, but from my personal experience, the muscle memory was not happy at being denied. This adds a layer of frustration to one of his two proper fights, though as Dante, he has no such weakness. It's not a fantastic fight mechanically, but it's still pretty decent for a humanoid battle, and it's satisfying to beat this jerk into the ground for kidnapping Nero's waifu. However, I will always love the Dante fight much more. Not only because you get Yamato afterwards, not only because you get to dab on him with your now complete arsenal, but also because...
It was my assumption that those demons would prove far inferior in the face of your tactics.
You summon and kill. Summon and kill. I fail to see the logic here.
Is Senate the price to pay for power?
The Dante cutscenes are probably the best part about all of Devil May Cry 4. Whether that's good or bad, I'll leave for you to decide. Number 22, Echidna. Okay, first of all, I just want to call bullshit. Look at this thing. Then look at her name. Does she look like an echidna to you? At least this faker is a pretty decent battle. To start off, she attacks you earlier in the level through a platforming sequence, giving you some anticipation to get revenge on her for inconveniencing you. The actual battle is cool too. Mechanically, there's nothing wrong with it. She shoots projectiles, charges across the battlefield to attack you, spawns in enemies, and gives you ample time to attack her. All perfectly good design elements, mixed well for a good balance of challenge. Using the buster arm to close the distance lets you get up to her weak points pretty easily, making it not that frustrating to take her down. Obviously as Dante, you don't have that luxury, and at this point in the game the only weapon you'll have is Rebellion, combined with your two guns, so your lack of options might make killing her tricky. However, she's also not that good at killing you, all of her attacks are pretty easy to dodge, so all this really does is extend the fight duration the second time around. I don't really have much more to say about Echidna besides all that. It's just a well-designed boss without too much narrative significance that serves its purpose here in the mid-game. Really, the best part about it is Dante's finishing cutscene at the end of the second fight. I think we've established that as a trend in Devil May Cry 4. Number 21, Berial. Is this guy a centaur? He looks like a centaur. See, this is what Eclipse Sagittarius could have been, but no. Maybe if this had been Sagittarius' alternate form, the fight would have been better, because Berial is quite a good battle, or at least one that I enjoy greatly. As the second boss in the game, and the first true boss fight in my opinion, seeing as that first one is more of a tutorial, he's a solid test of skill. Not quite as solid as early game bosses like Goliath or Cerberus, but we'll get there in due time. He kinda reminds me of Ludwig from Bloodborne, even though he came first, seeing as he's a massive centaur horseman with an incredibly large sword. He'll swing it around the arena, as one does with a sword, destroying all the various buildings nearby, and he'll also do fire AoEs that cause similar levels of destruction. These hit decently hard, but even with an early game health bar, it's nothing to really concern yourself with. Also, that environmental destruction is actually helpful to you, seeing as the destroyed buildings will drop health orbs for you to recover your much needed vitality. I guess it makes the fight as Nero a bit too easy, but it is still the start of the game, so I'm not mad about it. The rematch as Dante is even better, besides the lack of cool buster attacks, especially as then you've got an actual arsenal to play with. And then you get Lucifer afterwards, and that has got to be one of the greatest cutscenes in all of Devil May Cry history. Berial is a solidly designed boss fight, and it's deserving of its spot in the upper half of the list. And with that, we've covered 40 total bosses. We have really seen some big ups, some big downs, some truly fucking awfuls, but now we're getting into the solid boss lineup of this series, and it's only going to get better. A lot better. Next time, we crack into the top 20, and all the white-haired badasses that will await us within. I want to thank all of you for watching this. The support on this series has been really unexpected, and I'm very grateful for all of it. I'm currently taking questions for an upcoming Q&A on my channel, so leave any questions you may have in the announcement video, my community post, or in the comments of this video down below. Thank you all, and I hope to see you all in the next video very soon.